My name is Livhuwani Mulovhedzi from Department of Forestry, Environment, and Fisheries. So I'm mixing. I'm from Biodiversity Enforcement. Here I'm going to do presentation on AIS regulations. Presentation outline. I'm going to touch on legislative framework, functions of EMIs, enforcement, administrative notice and criminal cases, offenses and penalties, case studies, convictions, and then the last one is conclusion. And then legislative framework. We know that here in South Africa we've got laws, and then the mother body is constitution. And in our constitution, we've got section 24, which I understand everyone knows what it is. As a citizen, we've got rights to live in a clean environment, and again, we have got a duty to protect. Then that's our constitution. Then from our constitution, that's where NEMA comes from. It comes from section 24, because we need to protect environment while we are using it. And environment in broad, it's everything, living and non-living. Then from NEMA, there is a National Environmental Management Biodiversity Act. This one, it deals with plants and animals. We do have Pollution Act, it's under NEMA. We've got so many acts under NEMA. Then from after NEMA, because even NEMA, it protects so many things. We've got CITES, we've got BABs, we've got so many things. And then including alien invasive plants. That's where the alien invasive species regulations comes from. The first one came out 2014 when it started. The functions of EMIs is to monitor and to enforce compliance with specific national environmental legislation. The one I was reading under NEMA. But here, because we're talking about AIS problem, we enforce NEMA and its regulations, AIS regulations. We use both of them. And then we investigate an act or omission in respect of which there is a reasonable that it might constitute an offense in terms of such law, a breach of such law, or a breach of a term or condition of a permit or authorization. We do check if you applied a permit, we monitor because permit, it comes with permit conditions. Then after you receive a permit, then we do come to your property and check if you are following what permit condition says. Then if you don't follow what permit condition says, then that's where the problem started. This is an example of EMI on site. Here, I think it was operation in Neisner. Yes, it was operation in Neisner. It was a joint operation where it was enforcement, compliance, permitting section. You can see the last person there is Asive. Then we were doing operation together as EMI officials. Then in enforcement, we've got two things. We have got administrative and criminal enforcement. Then in administrative enforcement, it comes after my colleague Zinke. She was here doing her presentation. We received inspection report from her office for non-compliance. Then after that, then we check what the report says. Then if it's something minor, that's where it will go for warning letter, just to warn you that no, can you remove your plants, or if it's animal, then it will depend on how we engage. And then if we see that the issue is bigger, then we draft a notice. We have got compliance notice or pre-compliance notice or pre-directive notice that we issue in terms of section 31L of NEMA. And then after that, it can go to directive in terms of section 69. Sorry. Then in pre-directive or pre-compliance, pre-compliance, it goes for a nursery. When we receive the inspection report from compliance, which was done from the nursery, we draft a pre-compliance notice. Then if it's other, let's say a farm or a residential area, we draft a pre-directive notice. A pre-directive notice, it's giving the owner of the property a chance to tell us what are you going to do about the problem in your property. We mean, how are you going to deal with the problem? Then that's where you're gonna tell us. First, we will issue that pre-compliance notice. Then you will acknowledge that you received it. Then after that, you will get 10 working days to write a representation. You're going to tell us what are you going to do. Then before lapse, you will need to submit a representation to us. Then after that, it will depend if it's more than 1 hectare, then you will have to draft a control management plan. The time frame is 30 working days. Then if 30 working days lapse, then we go to final directive or final compliance. Then the final directive is going to tell you now, no more asking. Once we issue to you, then you will have to comply, whether you like it or not, you will have to comply. If you didn't comply pre-directive, then for directive, it's going to give you 10 days to respond, representation. You like it or not, you will have to do it. Then in 30 working days, control management plan. And then we are strict and we count. Then if you don't write representation, or sometimes you will write representation, but when it comes to control management plan, you don't submit, and that working days lapse, then we will come to your property and do inspection, because sometimes you might find that yes, you didn't submit a control management plan, whereas you are busy clearing, but because you didn't tell us, then we will come and then we conduct a follow-up inspection. And if we find that, no, you are doing nothing, then that's where it goes to criminal. And then we will come back to warn you. Then after that, we go to open a case against you. And that's where we will meet in court. This is an example. This photo was taken. It was taken before this area was cleared. It's very much infested. Most of the species is eucalyptus. This is after clearing. Look how beautiful it is. Now the water is there. This is criminal enforcement now. Who, what, when, where, and why. It's the landowner contravening after you fail to do what we ask, and then the problem is in your property, and you know the reason, then that's where it goes to case docket, where we involve SAPS, it's police station. We don't hand everything to the police. Remember, we are police. We have got those powers like police. SEMI or Green Scorpion, we conduct our investigation ourselves. We have got our own docket, unlike the one from the SAPS where they use the brown one, we use the green one, then even if you can try to bribe the police, you won't win, because wherever I go, I've got my docket. If I go to the court, I go there with my docket and then hand over to the magistrate. Then after court, if they remind it, then I take my docket, go with it, then which means there is no missing. We follow all the process, like registering the docket with the NPA, because they need to check if this docket it's valid, it needs to go to court. And we do have a challenge with NPA, because sometimes they do tell us that no, this is just a plans. Then even police station will say no, we have got a serious case, we've got a murder case. Then why just a plans? Why can't we just leave it? That's why most of the things we are doing ourselves. Then there we normally sit down. If it's a police station, we sit down with station commander and discuss about the case to make them understand how important to protect the environment it is. Once they understand, that's where we will open our docket. Then even NPA, we go and sit down with the one who is in charge and try to explain the importance of opening the case. Then the docket then go to court for trial. Then the court will decide based on the evidence. Once we decide that we go for criminal case now, we open a case against the landowner. It means we've got all evidence. We don't go if we are just suspecting. We've got evidence because if it's plans, we take pictures, we have all the documents, the correspondence we have got. Then the court will decide according to the evidence. Offenses and penalties. In terms of Section 101 of Number 10/2004, a person is guilty of an offense if that person fails to comply with the provision of Section 65, 1, Section 67, 2, or Section 71 of 1. Then there, my colleague Asiva, he was giving presentation regarding permit. If you are busy doing any restricted activity without a permit, then it means you are guilty of an offense. Then you will be charged. Directive issued in terms of 69(2) or 73(3). Then if you fail to comply with the instructions from the directive, then it means you are guilty of an offense. Fraud, tampering the permit. Let's say maybe you said you are applying permit for beef wood. Then now we find that there is black water. Or for example, let me give you an example for the ring neck. You apply a permit that you want to have 5 ring necks. Then when we come, because after you receive a permit, we will visit you. Normally it can be after 4 months or 6 months. Then when we come to your property, then we find that you have got 6 or 7. Then, but the permit there it shows 5. Then it means you are guilty of an offense. Then same goes to making a false statement for a purpose of obtaining a permit. It's about lying. Forging. Then it's offense. You can't forge it. It has to stay as they gave it to you. All this, if you do it, then you are in trouble. Here is talking about the fine. The fine it must be not more than 10 million or 10 years. And then it depends on how the problem is in your property, and again your attitude count here. Because for example, from the beginning, when my colleagues in here will visit your property to conduct inspection, then you will abuse her, then telling her and swearing at her, then we count that. Then she will draft the notice, the report, she will refer to us, then we draft the Pre-Directive. Then when we call you just to make appointment or to send you via email, then you will show it to us, then it's fine. Then we will visit you, then you will chase us, it's fine. Then we go to police station and request them to accompany us. We came to you, you acknowledge it, even if you don't want, then we will count that within 10 working days you need to draft, to submit representation, and you don't do it, then 30 days, no control management plan submitted, then we issue final directive, nothing happened, then we go for criminal, then you don't cooperate, then we go and sit down with station commander, we discuss about the case, we go to NPA, we discuss the case, and telling them they behave, you shown us, and then again, remember, I've got powers like SAPS, and then we do work with FIC. We check even the status of your income, because some they do, they misbehave because they've got money. Then when we before the judgment, we sit down and discuss the penalty, that no, this one is doing nothing and he's staring at us, he doesn't care. Then instead of giving you maybe 50,000 because you are a millionaire or a billionaire, then we just say no, 10 million is fine. Or if we see that no, you will pay money, then we just say okay, let's say 5 million plus 5 years in jail. Then which means you will pay 5 million and another 5 years in jail, just to show you that no, there is no bigger, nobody bigger than the law here in South Africa. These are some of the case study. When this person, he was not compliant. He was doing nothing. Always excuses. I don't have money, party. He had business, and he was not aware that we know that he has got business. And then we end up opening a case about this property, and then it went to the court. Fortunately, he saw that the court, the judgment is going to lead him in jail, because we were asking both fine and then the 2 fines for money and to spend some years in jail. But he decided to clear this property. But the problem he started to clear while the case was still in court. Then that's where the court was lenient to him, and because he spent 350,000 on clearing, then he was sentenced for 50,000 or 2 years in prison, which was suspended for 5 years because of that 350,000. These are, this is the same area. This is the area after clearing. This is a nursery. Same story. We issued the pre-compliance notice. Then they didn't remove those listed invasive plants. We went back for follow-up inspection. It was still there, and then we did a second follow-up inspection. There was no change, and then we issued final compliance notice. Still, there was no change. It was stories because some of the species they were telling us that it is hybrid, and we had to take sample to make sure that we are not just guessing. Then the samples came back indicating that it was not a hybrid. And that picture, we were collecting those listed plants because it was going to be our evidence. And then, fortunately, the owner admitted that she was wrong. Then it was sentenced like that. This is our buggy. We were collecting all listed plants. Normally we collect them and we ask botanical garden to keep those plants for us until the final verdict, because sometimes we might lose. Then if we lose, then it means these plants, it needs to go back to the owner. But if we win, like here, it means now we will have to destroy these plants. We do have lots of cases, just that here we only just indicating few cases. Here just indicating that this invasive, they don't see boundaries. They just go anywhere. They are not like us, where I would say no, that is the boundary. That side is my neighbor. I'm not allowed to go there. But invasive, they don't care. They go anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Livhuwani. Do we have any questions? We might just have to stop because we're going to change over to the generator. The power's going off at 12 o'clock, but we can carry on with the question and answer session without the mic.
Sorry, Livhuwani, just your last point, with all listed dead invasive species do not require a permit. Can I please clarify the dead listed invasive species? If it is a plant, like water hyacinth, you cannot move it because there is seeds in it. So if it is dead, it has to be chopped up and it cannot be moved because of the seeds. So you cannot move some listed dead invasive species. So can we clarify if it's a dead animal, maybe? Or if it's a dead something or other, but not all listed dead invasive species can be moved without a permit. So can we just clarify that, please? Because some plant species, when they're dead, still carry seeds. So if you move that as a whole plant, you are still moving an invasive species that can then cause another problem somewhere else. So if you first have to then either mulch it or take off the seeds or the flower heads or the whatever else. So please, on your last slide, can you just change that for your next presentation, that not all listed dead invasive species can be moved without a permit? Thanks.
Debbie, thank you very much for that, but maybe on behalf of the audience, where will that guideline be found with regards to which of the species should not be moved? I don't think that guideline exists, if I'm not mistaken.
We've got a We've got a document that says classification of biomass, 1B species and 3, how to remove them. But we've also drafted, we call it the management guideline for most 1A and B species. And if you need to know how to control a species, how to remove or move it, contact our office, we will share that with you. A lot of them has already been put into pamphlets through case office that can be shared as well. But every single species is different to another. That is why when you present it now, it's not a copy and paste to all. And I also wanted to elaborate on that. When you get a directive or a notice, every single one is different from the others. They're not the same. They're all case based on what's happening. So, but to refer back to your classification, we do have a guideline, we draft a guideline, it went to our legal team, which I can share with the audience, there's no problem.
Okay, so through your offices, yeah, there will be guidelines to assist. Okay, that's quite important to take note.
Maybe to add, normally what we do, we advise the landowner to make sure that when they kill plant, they make sure that there is no spreading, especially if there is a seed. They make sure that those seeds mustn't spread. They need to cut it in one place and make sure that they can burn it, that plant. And then if they want to use for firewood, they make sure that those piece they want to make woods, it's fine. But the rest that can spread, they need to make it very careful and put it in one side. Then after that, they will have to burn it rather than just throwing away or just transporting from one place to another place.
Are there any other questions with regards to enforcement? There were gentlemen up there. Sorry, lady first. Please tell us who you are.
Hi, good morning. My name is Posisa. I am based here at Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. My question, two questions. One is on your enforcement. You said there are warning letters. What constitutes your warning? What would be my offense to just receive a warning letter? And also the municipalities, how much power do we have in terms of enforcing the law in terms of permits? Do we, via the department, do we take whoever that is not complying to the department? Though I said two questions, but one last question. We sometimes deal with landowners that are nowhere to be found. Sometimes, if we are lucky, you get children that sometimes are not even in the country. In those situations, what then do we do? What does the department do in those cases? And also, if the landowner passes on, they had, or the landowner had the management plan and everything in place, but that was not executed, and then the land is passed on to the children. Do the children need to start from scratch, or they can just use that management plan and just execute it?
Okay, a number of questions there.
Okay. I hope I will remember them.
Yeah. Thanks. So first of all, your first question was in regards to the... That was that? What's your first question? Was just quickly just give the warning letter. Okay. So what happens is that if you can imagine now, every single garden property I'm sitting here will have some sort of illegal activity on it. Let's call it. We can't all the cases can't be just go to enforcement action. Like I said to you earlier now, we want voluntary compliance. Remember now, the moment that I asked Livhuwani to take enforcement action, that's a legal blind document, then you're in trouble. So we don't want to follow that route, Livhuwani, because then you come with your stick. So what we want is, if you say your guava tree is missing in my neighbor's pool, then we give you a warning letter to say, listen, this is the rules responsibility of the landowner. We more guide you in a warning to say what should you do and what should you not do as a landowner. And normally people do comply. If you still don't comply, then I bring my big guns out. So that I would answer your question on a warning letter. Then the one on control plans municipalities, we follow the same principle. We do, if there's non-compliance on municipalities, we do issue them with warning letters and with pre-directives. We do take into court. We are busy with a lot of cases behind the scenes on organs of state, protected areas and national parks and municipalities, so we do that. And then I think you had another question in regards to...
How do they follow up with somebody in the municipality?
Okay. So what we do is now, so my team, the lady behind you in the Eastern Cape, they will build relationships through firms like this, and she actually was supposed to be at another meeting today with municipal managers, which we actually guide them on what to do, how to do it. So if you ever know of if anybody from here is from municipality or an organ of state and you want to have a meeting with us, then contact us and say, listen, we're having our yearly or your monthly meeting, invite us, we guide you and we can build a relationship with you. That's how we go that route. But there was you had another question. So if you have a property and you leave it for your next of kin or whoever, there's a management plan in place. The person is still responsible to keep and maintain the property. Obviously, you let us know and we'll come out and make sure to verify all the information is true or false. But I was just going to make one thing clear. I'm not saying you need to bankrupt yourself and go and clear your whole property of 50 hectares and spend billions. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, acknowledge we have a problem, we want to do something, I want to get a management plan that says, I've got 50 cents, I can spend 20 cents in the next 2 years, this is what I can do. That is what we want, is to make sure we make a difference where we can, not to just step away and put the burden somewhere else. And that is what Livhuwani said, if you have a neighbor that is complying, that is a priority area to start next to your neighbors, make a difference together. If you're bordering a national park or a protected area, or if you are a fire hazard to a mountain range, or you're in a catchment area where the working for water team has worked before, then you should comply. So those are the priorities that I'm looking at before we're approving a plan. But it's not, I'm saying do not go and bankrupt yourself to get compliant. That's not the idea of it. Ma'am, to answer your questions.
Yeah, it does. But still, what happens then if the owner is nowhere to be found?
Okay, so what we've done before is that we do have relationship with, for example, the deeds office, municipalities that can help us. If you have an ad number or address, you can look up and see where the owner is. You're right, a lot of them are just weekend farmers. They're not here, they're in Cape Town or Johannesburg. We've got ways of tracking them. We even have Interpol, these ways of getting people in other countries. So there is ways of doing it. We've got systems in place, and there is asking after. I can give examples of cases. So we do have a system of getting. I know sometimes it's a problem for us to get hold of people if it's a vacant land, but if it's an ad number, then we've got Interpol to help us, or we can look it up in the system and we get that information.
Maybe to add to what Stian is saying, in control management plan, when you draft a control management plan, there is a time frame, and that time frame it comes from you as the owner. Because first, you are the one who knows that how much do you have, what time do you have, resources, and then you will indicate that maybe you will finish clearing your property in 5 years' time. Then, let's say from 2022 up to 2026, then you are going to draw a map of your property and divide that map, making camps, and indicate that you will write 1, 2, 3, 4 up to the way it is. And then you are going to indicate that in 2022, from this month to this month, you are going to start with block number 1. And then there, you are going to clear it, to cut. Then after 2 months or 3 months, then you will draw follow-ups. Then the next year, you will indicate that from this month to this month, you are going to deal with block number you will indicate. It might be 2 and 3, depending on the size. Because sometimes you might find that maybe your property is 10 hectares. And the other one has got a property like in KZN, that side of Livhuwani, where you will find that most of the reserve, there are 23,000 hectares. And you can imagine if it's 23,000 hectares, which means it's going to be more than 5 years. It might be 10 years or more than that. And you can't say, no, why 10 years? Because they are the one who knows how much they can afford. Then we don't expect you to draft a control management plan and then you just say, no, 2022, because it's 2022. When it ends this year, December, we don't need to see anything. No, it doesn't work like that. We are government for the people. And even when we go out as a public servant, we don't need to abuse people on behalf of government. We need people to see that government is trying to engage people in order to fight this problem, because government can't fight alone. It needs to fight together with the citizens.